This summer, plan your vacation at home. Clear the tracks for victory by helping save vital rail space. Space needed for the movement of troops and the comfort of wounded men. WEAF, New York.
The program usually scheduled over many of these stations, The Art of Living, will not be heard at this time in order that the National Broadcasting Company may bring you Bob Hope in a special program from a naval hospital in the South Pacific. The Art of Living will be heard at its regular time next week. We now take you to the South Pacific.
From somewhere in the South Pacific, we present the Bob Hope Show. Sunday morning, before nearly 2,000 wounded veterans of the Saipan, Tinian, and Guam campaigns, at the Fleet Hospital on the edge of a coconut grove somewhere in the South Pacific, is Bob Hope and his USO troop. Ladies and gentlemen, these wounded men have been through many bitter campaigns. What they're going to face now is ridiculous. Here he is, Bob Hope. Thank you. How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? This is Bob, Mosquito Network Hope. Thanking you boys from Guam, Tinian, and Span for making the Japs take it on the lam. Yes, sir. Isn't it wonderful what you can do on Spam, huh? Well, here we are on this beautiful, romantic South Pacific island. Boy, aren't these islands pretty? Wait till I see that Dorothy Lamour. What a lie. But I really hope you enjoy our show today. We have a nice show here with Francis Langford, Jerry Colonna, Tony Romano, Patty Thomas, and Barney Dean. I know you'll enjoy the girls. You remember girls? Yes, sir, they're doing very fine. In some of these islands we visit, these girls have been the first to land. Won't Eleanor be mad, huh?
From Hollywood and Iceland. The Chevrolet dealers all over America bring you Bob Hope in The Chevy Show with these stars as guests: Betty Grable, James Mason, Joan Rhodes, the Nick Castle Dancers, and Gordon Jenkins and his orchestra. And now, for the Bob Hope Show, we go to Keflavik, Iceland.
Ladies and gentlemen, this Christmas Eve of 1955, here at Keflavik Airport, Iceland, we're very fortunate to have one of the finest comedians in the world entertain our Army, Navy, and Air Force troops, and to christen our brand new service club. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Bob Hope.
Thank you. Make a nice paperweight. Thank you very much. Thank you, Colonel Sal Manzo. Good evening, men. I bring you news from the planet Earth. Yes, sir. This is Bob Hope wishing you a Merry Christmas from Keflavik, Iceland, the Miami Beach of the North. I want to say that we're having a ball here today. Having a ball, that's an old Iceland expression for let's go down to the dock and feel whale blubber.
The Perry Como Show, usually seen at this time, will not be shown in order to bring you the following special program. From the alert bases of the North Atlantic in Newfoundland, Labrador, Baffin Island, and Greenland, it's the Bob Hope Christmas Show. Dorothy Provine, Anita Bryant, Jerry Colonna, Miss World, Rosemarie Frankland, Peter Leeds, Les Brown and his band of renown, and special guest.
Well, fasten your seatbelts and put out your cigarettes. We're off on our annual Christmas caper. Our gallant band of USO gypsies have just had their yellow fever and typhoid shots, which in the Air Force means only one thing: we're headed for the Arctic Circle. In showbiz, there's no rest for slow studies. I hope the pilot knows what he's doing. I'd hate to memorize all this and not make it. It was 76 degrees when we left L.A. It's 14 below as we got off the plane here in Harmon, Newfoundland. Colonel Wilson rushed us to a restricted area where we put on a special show for the alert crews you see arriving here. And as you will hear, they make a very alert audience. Beautiful garage, isn't it? Isn't this nice? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bob Hope coming to you from Newfoundland, Labrador, Iceland, and Greenland. President Kennedy saw me talking to Barry Goldwater, and here I am.
Spy will not be seen tonight, so that we may bring you the 90-minute Bob Hope Christmas special, followed by the Brump Bump Show.
The following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
From Tansanut and Saigon, on K, Xi'an, Da Nang, Cu Chi, Pleiku, Queen Yang, and Cam Bay in Vietnam. From Guam, Wake Island, and Clark Field in the Philippines. From the Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the USS Bennington in the Gulf of Tonkin. And from Karat, Udorn, Takli, Nakhon Phanom, and Bangkok, Thailand. Chrysler presents the Bob Hope Christmas Special, starring Vic Damone, Joey Heatherton, Anita Bryant, Rita Faria, Miss World, the Korean Kittens, Diane Shelton, Les Brown and his band of renown, Bob's special guest star, Phyllis Diller, and a surprise guest. A 90-minute special from Chrysler Corporation, makers of Plymouth, Dodge, Chrysler, Imperial, Dodge trucks, all quality engineered by Chrysler Corporation.
It's halfway around the world to Thailand, 8,000 miles or 20 hours or 4 box lunches and 3 Alka-Seltzers. Talk about off-Broadway, here we are in the Bamboo Boondocks playing for 8,000 men of the Air Force at Korat.
From Saigon, Long Bin, Bearcat, Da Nang, Cu Chi, Pleiku, Lai Kei, Chu Lai, Phu Cat, Phan Rang, and Cam Ranh Bay in Vietnam. From Guam, Wake Island, and Clark Field in the Philippines. From the USS Ranger and the USS Coral Sea on Yankee Station in the Gulf of Tonkin. And from Korat, U Dorn, Tak Lee, U Ban, Nakhon Phanom, and Bangkok, Thailand. The Bob Hope Christmas Special, starring Raquel Welch, Barbara McNair, Elaine Dunn, Madeleine Hartog Bell, Miss World, Bill Crosby, Earl Wilson, Les Brown and his band of renown.
We knew it was going to be an unusual trip right from the start. Les Brown was on time. At 10:05, it was wheels up and out across the Pacific, 8,000 miles to Thailand. Our first stop was with the men of the 8th Tactical Fighter Wing at U-Bahn. As you can see, these are dedicated men. You can also see what they're dedicated to. We didn't have to worry about the sense of humor here. Look at this sign from one lonely GI who's headed for home in 76 days. Howdy, all you pooch eyes. I don't know what that means, but it played very big at the bathhouse. Very thrilled to be back here at U-Bahn, Royal Air Thai Air Base. The gateway to U-Bahn Ratchathani. Is that a word or a booby trap? No, we're at Wolfpack, the world's largest distributor of MiG parts.
From Long Bin, Cam Ranh Bay, Da Nang, Chu Lai, Phu Cat, Dong Tam, and Cu Chi in Vietnam. From Osan, Munsan, and Seoul in Korea. From Midway, Okinawa, and Camp Zama in Japan. From the USS Hancock and the USS New Jersey off Dixie Station in the South China Sea. From Utapao, Nakhon Phanom, and Korat in Thailand. The Bob Hope Christmas Special, starring Anne Margaret, Rosie Greer, The Gold Diggers, Linda Bennett, Miss World, Penny Plummer, The Honey Limited, Dick Albers, and Les Brown and his band of renown.
Well, if you gotta go, first class is the way. That's the head of the USO, General Rosie O'Donnell, behind the muff. When he's out of uniform, he's really out of uniform. I guess Howard Miller drafted everybody in Los Angeles to see us all. After 5,000 miles of airtime and a fast show at Midway, we arrived at Yokota Air Base in Japan. Among the welcoming party, I found my son Kelly, who's on duty at nearby Sasebo Naval Base. He's in civvies. I hope that doesn't mean he's AWOL. We were all pretty nervous before our first show. It was in a huge gym at Camp Zama. And in the audience were a lot of Vietnam combat casualties brought from hospitals all over Japan. We needn't have worried for a moment. These guys may have been patients, but they were the kind of medicine we needed. Yes, sir! Our first show, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are in Tokyo, Japan. I know we're in Tokyo. The smog comes in slanted.
From the White House, Berlin, Germany, the USS Saratoga in Gaeta Bay, Italy, and Incirlik Air Base, Turkey. From Lai Kay, Chu Lai, Long Bin, Cu Chi, Hue, and Da Nang in Vietnam. From Utapao, Korat, Nakhon Phanom, and the Royal Palace in Bangkok, Thailand. From the USS Ranger and the USS Sanctuary off Yankee Station in the South China Sea. And from Taichung, Taiwan, and the island of Guam, Chrysler presents the Bob Hope Christmas Special. Around the World with the USO, starring Connie Stevens, The Gold Diggers, Teresa Graves, Suzanne Charney, Miss World, Ava Ruber-Stair, the Payroll Brothers, and Dolores Reed. Special guest star, Romy Schneider. Our first man on the moon, Neil Armstrong. And Les Brown and his band of renown.
When you start your junket off with a dress rehearsal in the East Room of the White House, it promises to be a pretty wild trip. When we arrived at L.A. International Airport early in the morning, the field was socked in. There were 45 commercial jets lined up in the fog ahead of us waiting to take off. We just waved our gilt-edged invitation, and 45 jets watched as our C-141 taxied out and took off for Washington, D.C. 6 hours later, we were headliners in the lounge on Pennsylvania Avenue. The President and his First Lady proved themselves to be delightful hosts. They shook hands personally with all 77 of our voters and treated us to a handsome dinner in the state dining room. And when it came time for us to sing for our supper, I must say it was a tough warm-up to follow.
This is a very special occasion and a first for the White House. The first time that we have had an evening at the White House, an evening of entertainment only. And we thought it was appropriate that we should begin what we think will now be a good precedent to follow, to begin in this Christmas season. And as we were trying to think of someone who could best kick off this series, the man who came to mind was, of course, Bob Hope. This is the first time in White House history.
Ironside will not be seen tonight in order to bring you the Bob Hope Christmas Special.
Now, a special program in living color on NBC.
From West Point, Lakenheath, England, Hanau, Germany, and the USS John F. Kennedy in Suda Bay, Crete. From Utapao and Ubon, Thailand. From Camp Eagle, Da Nang, and Long Bin in Vietnam. From the USS Sanctuary in the South China Sea. From Yeonjugal and Osan in Korea. And from Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage, Alaska, the Bob Hope Christmas Special. Around the Globe with the USO. Starring Ursula Andress, Johnny Bench, Lola Falana, The Gold Diggers, Gloria Loring, Bobby Martin, The Dingalings, Miss World, Jennifer Hostin, Miss United Kingdom, Yvonne Orm, and Les Brown and his band of renown. Brought to you by Chrysler Corporation, makers of Dodge, Chrysler, Plymouth, and Dodge trucks, with extra care in engineering, and by Rolaids, for relief of heartburn and acid indigestion. Rolaids consumes 47 times its weight in excess stomach acid.
Sesame Street isn't the only one with a big bird. That's our C-141 crammed full of equipment, luggage, cue cards, sets, props, costumes, and a gang of happy gypsies who'll do anything to get out of Christmas shopping. That's our mayor, Sam Yorty, making one of his rare appearances in Los Angeles. My leaving town is part of his anti-pollution program. And that's Jack Benny playing Santa Claus. What a switch. When he went home, his bag was full. Actually, we had a tough time getting Jack to go home. When he smelled the grease paint and heard the roar of the crowd, he wanted to join the show. Ham that he is. Oh, what a delightful ham. These tykes showed up claiming to be my grandchildren. What a blow to a handsome young leading man. Okay, stand by for takeoff. Wheels up, flaps down, and fingers crossed. What a load. Our aircraft commander, Major Merv Kaiser, had to put both feet on the instrument panel to lift this kid off the runway.
Now, a special program in living color on NBC.
From Hawaii, Wake Island, and Okinawa. From Utapao and Ubon, Thailand. From Camp Eagle, Da Nang, and Long Bin in Vietnam. From Rota Naval Station and Torrejon Air Base in Spain. And from Guantanamo Naval Base in Cuba. The Bob Hope Christmas Special. Around the Globe with the USO. Starring Jim Neighbors, Jill St. John, Don Ho, Charlie Pride, the Hollywood Deb Stars, Vida Blue, Jan Daly, Sunday's Child, Suzanne Charney, Miss World USA, Brucine Smith, Carmen Sevilla, the Blue Streaks, Les Brown and his Band of Renown, and Rear Admiral Alan Shepard, the first astronaut to play golf on the moon. Brought to you by Chrysler Corporation, makers of Dodge, Chrysler, Plymouth, and Dodge trucks, with extra care in engineering. By Shell, Super Shell, and non-leaded Shell of the future. Shell products perform. And by Avon, the world's leading manufacturer of cosmetics and toiletries.
After 25 years of last-minute scrambling for planes, I finally learned my lesson. This year I packed early, put my monologue together early, got up an hour early, and went to the wrong airport. It was a cold, windy morning at Van Nuys Airport, but fortunately these high steppers from Locke High School Band were on hand to keep the cast and crew happy. Hey, there's Santa and reindeer. Say, he looks a lot like Glenn Campbell. There's a twang in his ho-ho-ho. And there's General Westmoreland in civvies to see us off this morning after our big USO dinner the night before. And there's my newest grandchild, Miranda. Let's see, is that 3 or 4? I'm gonna have to get a waterproof arm. Well, so much for farewells. We bled this for all the sympathy we're gonna get. Now it's wheels up, fasten seatbelts, open box lunches, and we're off on the road to Waikiki.
NBC Wednesday Mystery Movie will not be seen tonight, but will return next week at its regular time. From Shemya Island in the Aleutians, from Yokota, Japan, and from Camp Casey, and Osan in Korea, from Udorn, Utapao, and Nam Phong in Thailand, and from Tan Son Nhut Air Base in Vietnam, from the island of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, and from aboard the USS Midway off Singapore, and from Subic Bay in the Philippine Islands, Anderson Air Force Base in Guam, and from Wake Island. It's the Bob Hope Christmas Special. Starring Red Fox, Lola Falana, Roman Gabriel, Fran Jeffries, Rudy Cardenas, Miss World, Belinda Green, Dolores Reed, plus 12 American beauties, and Les Brown and his Band of Renown. The first half of the Bob Hope Christmas Special is brought to you tonight by Ford, Torino, Thunderbird, Maverick, Mustang, and Pinto at your Ford dealers.
Well, like they say in show business, one more time. Here we go. 78 of the faithful for our 22nd annual overseas junket. That big stack of Santa Claus turned out to be Merlin Olsen of the LA Rams. If you follow the Rams, you know why Merlin was wearing the beard.
And there's a fellow who looks a lot like Jim Neighbors. Oh, no wonder. Hi, Jim. Get a load of those American beauties. They told me to limit my baggage to 65 pounds. I know how to pack. Every time we start down the runway, I ask the same question. How do they know this monster can fly? Okay, suck in your breath and lift up your legs. We need all the help we can get. Made it. Next stop, Shemya in the Aleutians, 8 hours away. 7 if we make all the lights. Shemya is a windswept rock in the North Pacific with 800 Air Force men clinging desperately to the tundra. And we're here because Colonel Donald Jolly convinced the Defense Department that this remote out-of-the-way base was actually a shortcut on the way to Tokyo.
From the helicopter carrier, the USS Guam. Steaming off the coast of Beirut, Lebanon, the USS Fort Snelling. From the hangar deck of the aircraft carrier, the USS John F. Kennedy. On the aircraft carrier USS Independence in Haifa Harbor. The LST USS Manitowoc. On the world's only battleship, the New Jersey. And from Marine Headquarters in Beirut, Lebanon, it's Bob Hope, USO Christmas in Beirut. Starring Kathy Lee Crosby, Vic Damone, Julie Hayek, Miss USA 1983, and Jillian, George Kirby, and special guest star Brooke Shields. Brought to you in part by General Electric. GE makes products that make life easier and better. At GE, we bring good things to life. And by Texaco. You can trust your car to the products with the star. So as you drive, always look for the sign of the Texaco star.
Here we are landing in Cyprus, the Greek islands. We've been in the air over 17 hours, and now we're only a helicopter jump from our destination. That's Commodore Carl Leary, commander of Amphibious Squadron 4, the outfit that'll be playing host to us. Yes, sir, they're all here, the cast, crew, and cargo, boarding our Mediterranean taxi for our flight out to the 6th Fleet. There they are. The songs are all rehearsed, the lines have been memorized, the dance numbers are choreographed, and all my ad-libs are on cue cards. This gang may look quiet, but they're probably as excited as they've ever been in their lives. And there's the USS Guam.
A.J. Starbuck will return next week at this time. Stay tuned now for a special farewell performance of the Bob Hope USO Tour.
It's Bob Hope's USO Christmas Show from the Persian Gulf. Around the world in 8 days to entertain our armed forces overseas. Starring Bob Hope, Barbara Eaton, Lee Greenwood, Connie Stevens, and her daughters, Jolie and Tricia Fisher, Miss USA, Michelle Royer, and the Super Bowl dancers.
Our 8-day odyssey began at the 146th Tactical Airlift Wing in Van Nuys, California. Johnny Grant emceed our send-off along with Phyllis Diller, all dolled up like Santa Claus, and a new face she got for Christmas.
That spirit throughout Christmas season, okay? Thank you.
Here's a flyby from the men of the Condor Squadron. My wife Dolores' parting words to me were, right if you get work. General Dwayne Cassidy lent me his plane for the trip. I hope it can handle curves. Next stop, Hickam Field in Honolulu. Yeah, the 6-hour flight gave us plenty of time to sneak in a few script changes and a little bit of rehearsal time before our touchdown at Hickam Field. Aloha, Hawaii.
Governor John Waihehog greeted us upon arrival.
Bob Hope and the members of his Christmas special
That's Admiral Hayes.
are a very important symbol.
Set up a welcoming ceremony right there on the airstrip. And we refuel there. The funny thing about Hawaii, the aviation fuel smelled a lot like pineapple juice. Our plane was being refueled for the next leg of our journey, an 11-and-a-half-hour flight to the Philippines. In order to get to Clark Field in time for the show that evening, we had to refuel in flight. The pilot told me if they hadn't sent those KC-135s from Maui, we never would have made it.